heating and air conditioning. And today we are going to answer one of the most commonly asked questions when it comes to furnace troubles is why would my furnace be able to turn on but then not heat? So, in order to answer this question, we are going to call the most knowledgeable person I can think of, which would be my dad. Let's call my dad and see what he has to say. Hey, Dad.
Hello.
Are you busy?
Am I busy? Never busy for you. No.
All right, cool. So, what I was wanting to ask your opinion about is one of the most commonly asked questions online that we see is why would a furnace turn on but then not heat? Like, why would that possibly happen?
Okay.
Any ideas?
Well, let me back up just a step. And when you say come on but not heat, don't know exactly what that means. So let me handle it as if, for instance, you were someone calling me over the phone and what could be going wrong with my furnace here, And so typically, I'm going to ask them, is their furnace working at all? And a lot of times they're not sure. And so when did you last hear it running? Were you aware of hearing it running? But basically, if you go to your thermostat, it's usually reading the room temperature and it's reading the temperature that you've got it set at. Is the room temperature colder this time of year when we're talking about your furnace? Is the room colder than what it should be? Because I've got it set on 72 and it's 68 in here. That kind of thing. So
yes, like let's say it seems like there's air coming out of the vents, but it's cold air, and the thermostat, it's getting colder and colder. But it seems like it's running, but it's not heating.
Okay. Well, basically why you get that symptom of why the cold air blowing is a lot of newer furnaces, furnaces that are made in the last 15, 20 years. That's a newer furnace. The controls are set up to default to the blower running. So if it senses a problem, something is overheated or something didn't fire properly or something like that, it almost always defaults to run the blower. They want that blower to run. So if it's overheated or something like that, it will be cooling itself down. So a lot of times if there is a problem, it will fail to just blowing cold air, But does that make sense?
Yes.
So, but a lot of times, when people call, it's just, it's not blowing cold air. It's not blowing anything. Nothing's working, that kind of thing. And so typically what I have to do is first turn everything off. Go ahead and turn your thermostat off, because there are a lot of electronics in the furnace, both in the thermostat and in the furnace itself, that the appliance can lock itself out many times. There could be a problem. Could be a problem that's going to happen again, or it could be a problem that is kind of a rare problem. It could be that super cold morning, and think about it, every furnace on the block is firing at the same time, on a really cold morning. Well, gas pressure can be affected in the home. That's only on an extreme cold morning, and given the time of day, 6:30, 7 o'clock in the morning, every furnace is on. So sometimes things like that can cause the furnace to lock out. So first thing I would say is just go to the thermostat. Yes, it should be warmer in here, but it's not. Just turn it off. Turn the heat cool off switch to off. Wait 4 or 5 minutes, just to know for sure. Now, typically what I would tell you to do at that point, thermostat's been turned off, nothing's working. You've got a heat cool off switch. That's kind of how you select the season that you're using, but there's typically another switch on your thermostat. Could be in different locations, depending on the type of thermostat that you have. But it's a blower switch, and it will typically say auto and on. This is for the blower of the furnace.
Auto and on is on the thermostat?
Right, it's on the
Okay.
thermostat. It's a switch on the thermostat.
Okay.
And the auto and on is for the blower. And auto means it will automatically come on and off with the furnace or the air conditioner. Okay. On means the blower is going to come on and stay on. So a really good test to know, do I have electricity? Do I have power to the furnace? Is the furnace going to work or not? Is turn that blower switch to the on position. You should have the blower just start up.
Okay.
You should be able to go to the register, or you should hear it from the thermostat. You hear the blower come on. Well, if it does that, you've proven that you do have power to the furnace. You've also proven that there's nothing wrong with the blower. The blower works.
Okay.
It blows.
It's not a blower problem.
I may have another problem, but it's not the blower. That kind of thing. So turn it on, and if that part of the system is working or not. So
Okay, cool.
but that the next thing to do is now reset your thermostat so it's calling for heat, meaning I'm asking for, and in this time it's probably the one time I say go ahead and do something extreme to the thermostat. Just crank it up to something really warm.
Right.
Obviously the furnace should be on right now.
Right.
Because sometimes that setting will change. You'll have a setback thermostat, a programmable thermostat, and a lot of times homeowners, maybe they haven't used that function of the thermostat for a long time. They kind of forget it. And sometimes the thermostat setting gets changed unbeknownst to them. Somebody hit the run program button or something like that, and now it's set the heat back at night, where they hadn't been wanting that.
Where maybe there's not a problem with the furnace, but the thermostat, just for whatever reason,
wasn't calling for heat. It wasn't telling it to go.
The furnace to turn
wasn't telling it to go. So
interesting.
But
another question that gets asked a lot. I'm sorry to interrupt.
Yeah, no, go ahead.
Well, another question that gets asked a lot, especially for people who maybe just have no idea anything about the furnace or air conditioner system, is could a dirty filter cause the furnace to malfunction?
The answer to that is yes, absolutely. And it's a problem that I see a lot more now than I used to. It used to be, again, over 20 years ago, the furnaces didn't have the controls on them. We didn't have that many filters that could create a problem, and you really didn't have that. Really wasn't a real common problem. Today it is. There are filters on the market now that weren't around 15, 20 years ago, and they are very restrictive, meaning they really cut down the airflow, going through the furnace. So you get a filter that by design doesn't move all that much air through it, and then let it get dirty, and it cuts it down. I mean, it kind of turns in your filter kind of turns into a piece of cardboard. And the furnaces now have more controls on them, safety controls, limits we call them, temperature limits, meaning the temperature of the furnace is getting too high. We want to limit that, and it will turn the furnace off. It'll turn it off because it simply has gotten too hot. It's overheated. Because of the reduced amount of air going over the furnace. So
the furnace is trying to protect itself from overheating. So
exactly, it's sensing that this furnace is getting too hot. It's getting outside the normal parameters of what a furnace is supposed to operate at, and it's sensing that there could be a safety problem here, so it's turning things off. So yes, absolutely, you will see that a lot nowadays.
Is there a lot? I know the older furnaces, used to all have pilot lights, and so people always think like, oh, the pilot light's off. Do you see that a lot nowadays, like with newer furnaces, or how often is that the problem?
Well, yes, you're right. The older furnaces, and boy, I'm starting to sound old now. 20 years old, boy, that's old. But
it doesn't sound old to me. 20 years.
They had pilot lights, and every homeowners kind of understood pilot lights. It's a little flame down there that lights the gas, and your water heaters today still have pilot lights, so it's kind of technology that people are familiar with. Newer furnaces, I'm really not aware of a new furnace today that has a pilot light. All of them that I'm aware of have gone to an electronic ignition technology of some form or another. Some are what they call hot surface igniters. These are little glow coils. These are little ceramic devices that glow white hot and will light the gas. Others are spark ignition, where it's a pilot light, actually still has a pilot, but it's made to go off and come back on with every call for heat, and it sparks and lights the pilot, then it lights the main burner. But for the most part, most all of them have gone to the what they call hot surface ignition, HSI, hot surface igniters on the furnaces now. Yeah, and they are a serviceable component. They will fail in time, and
like when you say it's a serviceable component, that means that it needs to be serviced, like it needs to be cleaned regularly in order for it to work.
It will wear out.
Oh.
It's a serviceable item. It will eventually wear out and go bad. It will put you in a position where there is no heat. And so that's why it's real important to have your furnace checked as a preventative maintenance, because we can actually look at those devices and measure them electrically and know if they're approaching a time in their service life that you could have a problem with it or not. So
you can tell at a maintenance visit, be like, hey, it's working now, but according to my
it's working
readings,
now, but yeah, you're getting into a range that you could have a problem with this.
This winter might be the winter that
most people don't want to have that problem. It's much. Look, if I'm going to have to replace this, let's do it now rather than when I wish I had my furnace
while I'm
working.
home. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, exactly.
Oh boy. Well, okay, so if it's determined that the filter's not what's causing the problem, and like a homeowner needs to have like a service professional out to figure out why the furnace isn't working, what would you say is probably the most common reason why a furnace would turn on but then not heat? Is it like what you just said with the...
Well, the furnace appliances are much more sophisticated than what they used to be. So, really just about every symptom, like it's not coming on, can have multiple problems, that can cause that same symptom. But let me, probably the best way, describing what a new furnace today does. So a typical furnace, there's two different efficiency families of furnaces. Some are very basic furnaces and others are super high efficiency. However, they all are going to have a very similar sequence of operation. And what that means is when your thermostat says, hey, I need the heat on, they're all pretty much going to do the same thing. And if you think about it this way, if I were having trouble with the furnace, it'd be good for you to send Rob downstairs and listen for this sequence of operation. The thermostat calls for heat, and typically, this is going to be just very typical. Some will be different, but this is going to be pretty general. The first thing that happens is you're going to hear an inducer fan come on. It's a little fan that is tied to the venting component of the furnace, so it's actually drawing flue gases out of the furnace. And it typically comes on, and the furnace is going to say it's got either pressure switches of some kind that measure, is that thing working or not? The furnace these are really smart appliances now. It's going to say that inducer blower should come on. Did it come on? It will prove whether it came on or not. Now, you could have a problem with your chimney or with your flue, like a bird's nest or a bunch of ice that gathered where it wasn't supposed to, or there could be a number of different things, but your furnace might be sensing, I'm not venting properly. I don't like this, and it's not going to allow your furnace to come on.
But typically, because that's an unsafe situation, so
right,
yeah.
and it's all about safety. There are safety controls on these appliances that 20 years ago we never even thought about.
Right.
But that sequence operation is that inducer fan is going to come on. It's going to prove that it's on. Might take 20 seconds, 30 seconds. Once it proves that it's on, it's then going to light that igniter. So a lot of times if you're looking in the furnace, You're going to see a glow. It's almost like a light bulb coming on. That's that igniter that we were talking about. You're going to see that glow of the igniter. After it proves that it's on, and it's going to prove that it's on, it knows how to know that it's hot enough, it's going to turn the gas on, and then you'll see your burners light. You're going to see that igniter go out, and you're going to see the furnace warm up for a while. Could be 30 seconds to 60 seconds. Then you're going to hear that main blower come on. And then at the end of the heating cycle, it's going to be just the opposite of that. So all along that way, if you know what those simple steps are, I hear the inducer come on.
I see.
But I never see that glow that Raymond was talking about. Well, you must have...
Maybe that's the problem.
You might have a problem with the igniter. You might have a problem with the control board that's telling the igniter to come on. You might have a loose wire. You might, like I said, it could be a host of things.
But this is how you can diagnose what the problem is.
But if I see it come on, and then I never see the burner come on, you kind of have, that takes you to a whole nother set of concerns, So, but that's your general basic mode of operation for all the furnaces today.
Okay. Well, that's good information. Let's see. I think that might have been it for that particular question. Anything else that you would add to that?
One thing would be, remember when we go back to the very beginning, I said the first thing is just turn everything off and let it sit.
Yes.
So here you were, I had a cold house, things weren't working, and I turned everything off for 4 or 5 minutes, turned it back on, and everything worked. Okay? Well, pay attention to that, okay? Sometimes, yes, it can be a very freak thing. Yeah, okay, it was uber cold that morning, and it was on that first startup in the morning or something like that. I get it. Okay, you can have a problem. But most generally, if something malfunctioned once, it probably will do it again. So you might want to take that as, I probably ought to have a professional come and just check this thing out. I avoided being without heat by turning my thermostat off and back on again. I recycled everything, and it took off and ran. However, don't do that multiple times. If it does it a second time, okay, look, there's something going on.
There's a problem.
That, yes, you can reset your thermostat and sometimes make it come back on, but eventually it's going to worsen, and something's going to fail, or it's not going to work. So it's trying to tell you something.
You mentioned the extreme cold, like what we've been having in Kansas here. I know, like, in the summertime, many people will call in and say, like, it's just running all the time, but not cooling my house down because it's, and, you look at the temperature gauge and, well, it's because it's 105 degrees outside, and air conditioners are only meant to have, like, a 20-degree temperature drop. So, yeah, it might be running all day and still only be 80 degrees in your house. Do furnaces, do you see kind of the same thing on the opposite end with furnaces? Like, is it just so cold sometimes that they're just
well, you can, and to take it a step further, that understand we design furnaces for in the summertime, that 100-degree day. So we design and size your furnace for that 100-degree day. That's design conditions. And so on a 100-degree day, that air conditioner is going to run. That air conditioner is going to run nonstop to cool you. But the number of hours we're at 100 degrees, I mean, it's literally, you can count on one hand. How many hours is it over 100 degrees?
It's a really hot week in August.
In the wintertime, we have a design temperature as well, and it's 0. Okay, so we go to 0. So if you're waking up and it's 0, or it's 5 below 0, or this coming weekend it's going to be, the Chiefs are going to be playing and it's going to get cold, know that we're at near design conditions. Okay, that furnace is going to run nearly nonstop. If it's sized properly, it's going to run nonstop just to maintain the temperature. Okay, so think about it. We mentioned something you really want to be mindful of is here it is. We're going to be pushing design conditions tonight. Okay, I've got a programmable thermostat. I normally let my house cool off to 65 degrees at night. Let's say, a lot of people do that. That's very common. And, when it gets down to 30 degrees at night, or when it gets down to 20 degrees at night, that's really not a big deal. That's not a problem. However, what about when it gets down to 0 or 10 below?
Right.
And I let my house cool off to 65 degrees.
It's going to take a while.
You lost me.
Mm-hmm. Okay, so it's 0 degrees outside, and somebody lets their house cool down to 65 degrees.
Mm-hmm. So here it is. You don't think about it, and your house cools down to 65 degrees, and now it's a bitter cold morning. It's 0. It's below 0. That furnace is going to run nearly nonstop just to maintain the temperature that you've got. Let alone recover 10 degrees or 5
try to get
degrees
back up
or something.
yeah.
So when we get into bitter cold, on those cold nights,
just let it.
Let's not turn that. Let's preserve the heat that we've got.
Let's let it lie.
It's not going to be a big economic impact. Believe me.
Right.
Your house is going to feel much better in the morning. Let it keep the house warm. As a matter of fact, let's go a step further. Let's open up those cabinet doors to let, under the sink, let's open the cabinet doors at night, especially if it's on an outside wall.
Why?
It lets the warm air of the room get into the cabinets. It's amazing how cold a closed cabinet door that's on the outside wall of your house. And, open those doors up so in the morning the house is warm. The plumbing is warm under the sink. Those kinds of things.
I just learned a good little tip, Dad. Thanks for that.
And just and on that 100-degree day, let's do the same. It's gonna get up to 100 degrees today, and I'm ready to go to work, and my thermostat lets the house warm up to 80. And now I come home at 4:30, 5 o'clock.
It's gonna be
the hottest part of the day.
Yeah, enjoy.
The hottest part of the day, and it's 100 degrees outside. And now, I want my house to cool down 5 degrees or 10 degrees. There's a little false economy there. Think about it. You would have been better off just let the house stay cool all day. So yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Very interesting. All right, Dan. Well, I'll let you get back to work, but thanks for answering.